Chapter 2702. Overlord's begging for a kiss expression. Don't tell me you're addicted to my forceful kisses? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile, tilted her head, looking extremely mischievous. Dmo Xian's face sunk instantly. Yi Qing Luo laughed wantonly. At the same time, she slowly leaned her body towards Dmo Xian. She thought that Dmo Xian would immediately move away because of her words. But unexpectedly, Dmo Xian didn't move at all. He allowed her delicate body to stick to his hard chest. The distance between the two of them instantly became very close. Under everyone's gaze, neither of them flinched. If it was usual times, it had always been Yi Qing Luo who was teased by Dmo Xian until her face turned red. But now, Yi Qing Luo's thoughts were not on teasing. He didn't move. She then leaned closer, raised her head, slowly got close to his face. Between her charming eyes, there was a teasing cold intention, not concealed. Dmo Xian still didn't move. Both eyes stared intently at that beautiful face which was getting closer. That captivating red-pink lips, still stained with an alluring luster. As though it was tempting him to bend down and take away this tempting fruit. The young lady's words. The young lady's actions. All of them were provoking his bottom line. He should push her away harshly. He should let her have a long memory. Not everyone could be so frivolous. But, when the young lady's fragrance hit him, he didn't want to leave this beauty. Just when the young lady's lips were already on his, he could almost feel a strand of soft hair brushing past his lips. But the young lady didn't come any closer. They just maintained this extremely ambiguous posture. Between her brows, there was an icy smile. Overlord, are you looking forward to it? Her voice was deliberately bewitching. The slightly hoarse voice was like a cat's claw, scratching Dmo Xian's heart non-stop. Dmo Xian realized Yi Qing Luo's meaning, and immediately frowned fiercely. You. The words just came out. Yi Qing Luo had already pressed against his chest, straightened up. The unique fragrance of a young girl suddenly dissipated. She retreated a few steps away from him, her expression unreadable. Dmo Xian, no matter how you treat me, I love you, my heart aches for you, I'm willing to accept it, and I'm willing to pamper you, but I will never allow you to implicate others because of the matter between us. The last time the love goo acted up, he had injured Kitty Li. This time, the poison of centrifugal force acted up and injured Jun Qinggu again. These were all things that she did not wish to see, nor would she allow to happen. At the moment when Yi Qing Luo retreated, Dmo Xian's expression had already turned extremely black. Especially after hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, his pupils turned extremely black. Scram! Now, get out. His voice was tense. It was as if he was suppressing his extreme anger. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were indifferent as she wasn't afraid of his anger. She knew that her actions earlier had already let Dmo Xian know her bottom line. She was certain Dmo Xian would definitely remember this bottom line of hers in his heart. Looking at Dmo Xian, who was on the verge of exploding with rage, the corners of his lips curled into a faint arc. Forget it. Her own man, she had to pamper him no matter what. She turned around and without any hesitation, she pulled the door open and was about to leave. Qing Luo. Don't be rash, the overlord is only. The few people behind her immediately stood up to stop her. There were so many onlookers outside. If Yi Qing Luo went out alone, she didn't know how the rumors would spread. Chapter 2703. That smile. It was reflected in Dmo Xian's pupils. In his mind, another face appeared faintly. A devastatingly beautiful face. That face was also smiling at him, smiling. Suddenly, his heart felt a dull pain. It was the kind of dull pain that came from the depths of his soul. As if it was about to be torn apart. Little Luo, A hoarse voice, word by word, was spat out from his mouth with great difficulty, as if he had exhausted all the energy in his body. These 3 words made Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted. She quickly turned around and looked behind her. The man pressed one hand on his head, his tall body was swaying. His face was filled with pain, as his features gradually distorted. That pair of ink-black peach blossom eyes were filled with a violent storm. Another bloodthirsty murderous intent. Another painful repression. Countless emotions made the man's breathing became more hurried. In his chest, something was surging violently. A painful groan spilled out from his mouth. Powerful and majestic energy kept pounding in his body. Ah, Xian. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly trembled, as she wanted to rush over. That malevolent features man, blood-red peach blossom eyes, stared fiercely at her. That gaze was filled with absolute cold murderous intent, as if he wanted to tear her into pieces. Her footsteps abruptly stopped on the spot. The man's hoarse voice was like a saw cutting, "Go. Quickly, go." Yiqing Luo seemed to be frozen on the spot, unable to move no matter what. "Go." Another explosive roar. After Dmo Xian finished this roar, his entire body, as if he had lost all his energy, staggered a step backwards. He took a deep breath. That gaze, which was filled with murderous intent, was like a raging storm. The murderous intent was obvious. "Student Yi, you leave first." Gue Wu, who had been leisurely eating his meal, slowly put down the chopsticks in his hand. His eyes were calm, as his voice was deep and cold. "The centrifugal worm is driving the Overlord to kill you. The Overlord is relying on his own willpower to suppress his murderous intent towards you." Yiqing Luo heard that. Her body was slightly stunned. Thinking back to earlier, Dmo Xian's cry of "Lil Luo, seemed to come from the depths of his soul, and thinking back to him hysterically asking her to leave. If she forgot about her Dmo Xian, he would only tell her to get lost. Not leave. Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers slightly curled up. Mustering all his strength, he turned around and moved toward the door. Yes, she could not stay here to agitate Dmo Xian. She wanted to leave, until the goo worms in Dmo Xian's body quietened down. However, just as she turned around and took a few steps, her wrist was suddenly grabbed by an extremely strong force. Following that, her delicate body was pulled into a warm embrace. "Lil Luo, don't go, don't leave me behind." The anxious tone, grievance and careful pleading voice made Yiqing Luo's back stiffen. The man's warm chest. It was a familiar smell. A reassuring warmth. This made Yiqing Luo's eyes redden with sourness. She tilts her head back. Sure enough, he saw a face that was as handsome as a god. His face was no longer cold like before. Instead, it was filled with attachment and affection for her. Ah, Xian. Yiqing Luo suddenly turned around and hugged him tightly. "Ah, Xian, are you all right? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Where does it hurt? Let's go to the Miao Gu family to look for Yi. Let's take a look at her." Chapter 2704. She buried her face into Dmo Xian's arms. She deeply inhaled his scent. In this way, she could pacify the anxiety and uneasiness in her heart. Lil Luo, Dmo Xian seemed to be in a daze, not understanding what Yiqing Luo's actions meant. He only knew. The moment he opened his eyes, he saw Yiqing Luo's departing back view without turning back. Dmo Xian tightened his grip on the person in his arms as his black eyes were burning, filled with possessiveness as he spoke softly. "Lil Luo, I'm not feeling unwell. Don't leave me alone." "I'm not leaving, not leaving." Yiqing Luo hugged him tightly. One could faintly hear her voice choking with emotion. Dmo Xian sensed that her emotions were not right as he panicked and immediately hugged her shoulders, lifting her face. "Lil Luo, why are you crying? Whoever bullied you, I'll take revenge for you. That pair of ink peach blossom eyes were filled with concern for her. Yiqing Luo's heart warmed up a little. Her lips twitched as she smiled. No one bullied me, I just want a Xian to hug me. Dmo Xian hugged her tightly obediently. The surrounding people heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this situation. At the most crucial juncture, the overlord had finally recovered. If Yiqing Luo really left the cabin alone, the onlookers outside would definitely spread the rumors to be especially nasty. Although, they weren't people who cared about rumors. But, most of the time, these negative rumors, it would create quite a lot of obstacles for others. This again. Jun Xingwu's cold expression couldn't hold on any longer. Her beautiful eyes stared at Dmo Xian in a daze. That handsome face which had, "I'm a loyal dog," written all over it, was totally unable to overlap with that cold and overbearing overlord earlier. Love worm. Peach silently spat out 2 words, under the situation where there's no antidote, this kind of situation will happen frequently. Yan Xiaoyi nodded her head in agreement. Perhaps in the future, we will be able to see it every few to 5 days. Last moment, Sir Overlord was still overbearing and arrogant towards Qing Luo. The next moment, Sir Overlord will directly pounce over, hugging Qing Luo's thigh, begging her not to leave. Love goo? Jun Xingwu's expression suddenly turned solemn. And the centrifugal goo? Peach and Yan Xiaoyi nodded in unison. I'm afraid this is the Overlord's only dark history in his life. We have to remember it. Jun Xingwu lowered her eyelids, the expression on her face becoming more and more dignified. The Overlord was actually poisoned by the love curse and the centrifugal curse, these 2 nemeses. Then, would his body be able to take it? Ever since the incident in the private room that day, no one went back to the restaurant to eat. However, many people at the entrance that day vividly recounted what had happened that day. This spread from 1 to 10, and 10 to 100. Almost the entire northern wave continent knew about it. Yi Luo was abandoned by the great overlord. At the same time, everyone knew, the overlord's first wife, the real mistress of the imperial palace, had appeared. Regarding these rumors, Peach had thought of ways to explain. But not knowing why, the public opinion became more and more intense. On the contrary, her love life had been dragged into it. Yiqing Luo didn't have any special reaction when she heard all these. Chapter 2705. It wasn't difficult for Peach to trace the source of the public opinion. But this time, Peach had met her match. After 3 consecutive days of confrontation, Peach wasn't able to gain any advantage from the other party. She couldn't even investigate the source of the public opinion. For this point, Yiqing Luo could only conclude that it was premeditated. They wanted to make use of this restaurant's matter to create rumors. The motive should be to destroy her. Yi Luo. But towards these, Yiqing Luo didn't pay much attention to it. Her heart and soul were all placed on Dmo Xian. That day, Dmo Xian was corroded by the centrifugal worm, and the scene of him fighting against it had really shocked Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo wanted to bring Dmo Xian to the Miao Gu family to ask Miao Yi about it. But Ghost Marshal didn't approve of her way of doing things. Miao Yi said before that only the Saint Pavilion's secret method could find a way to remove the love worm and centrifugal worm. Even if she went to look for Miao Yi now, it wouldn't help. What's more, it would mess up Miao Yi's thoughts for the Sacred Maiden selection. Yiqing Luo observed Dmo Xian for a few days. After confirming that Dmo Xian didn't have any other discomfort, then her heart, which was hanging in the air, was put down. Very soon, the day of Miao Gu family's Sacred Maiden selection was approaching. Miao Gu's invitation was also sent to Peach. Yiqing Luo and the rest didn't hesitate as they set off towards the Miao Stockade village. Everyone was still sitting in that ordinary carriage. It was so ordinary that it was totally unrecognizable in the crowd of carriages. Of course, the current Dmo Xian didn't like to be in the same sealed space with anyone other than Yiqing Luo. Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian took a smaller carriage as they followed behind the big carriage. During this period of time, the goo worms in Dmo Xian's body had settled down. But occasionally, Dmo Xian would still switch between the two types of goo worms. Every single time, Yi Qing Luo's heart would tighten. Centrifugal worm and love worm. These were two types of goo worms which countered each other at the same time in one's body. And occasionally, it would switch modes. This was extremely harmful to the human body. Listen to Ghost Marshall's opinion. Yi Qing Luo tried her best to stabilize Dmo Xian's emotions, not to make him overjoyed, nor to make him furious. Yi Qing Luo expressed. During this period of time, she felt like she was dating two different types of handsome men at the same time. The journey to the Miao Stockade village was rather peaceful. Many carriages passed by one after another. They were all forces that were heading to the Miao Gu clan to participate in the Saintess selection. On the day of the Qinghua sect master's birthday banquet, the ordinary carriage caused a commotion. Everyone looked at the seemingly ordinary carriage. None of them dared to underestimate him anymore. Who knows, the person walking out of the carriage might be someone you can't afford to offend. Because of this, the journey was peaceful. But, just as Yi Qing Luo and the rest were about to reach the periphery of the Miao Gu family, Yi Qing Luo's little carriage had met with trouble. A horse carriage flew over, directly blocking the small horse carriage and the horse carriage of Gue Wu and the others. Every part of the carriage was exquisite and luxurious. Then, he followed behind Gue Wu and the others. It was as if he was purposely blocking the small carriage's line of sight. If it was just cutting the queue, it would have been fine. But this luxurious carriage was obviously targeting Yi Qing Luo's carriage. The speed of it moving forward was comparable to a snail. Bit by bit, it moved forward slowly. Chapter 2706. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. She patted the arms around her waist and lowered her voice. "Ah Xian, sit tight, I'll go take a look outside the carriage." The arms around her waist tightened. Yi Qing Luo smiled warmly. "Nothing, just take a look. If there's any danger, I'll call you out to protect me." The arms around her waist loosened hesitantly but still didn't let go. Yi Qing Luo smiled and gently stroked the back of his hand. "Be good, we've agreed that you'll listen to me today, so I brought you along. You must be obedient. If I don't call you, don't come out." After saying that, she pulled away Dmo Xian's arms around her waist. She slowly turned around and faced Dmo Xian. She raised her slender fingers and gently pressed on Dmo Xian's face, which was filled with grievance and displeasure. Her fingertips lifted upwards and the man's lips curved upwards into a smile. "Be obedient, don't make me angry." Hearing the word angry, Dmo Xian's eyes looked at her anxiously and mixed with panic. "Lil Luo, don't be angry." I'll be obedient." That look was like a canine pet who was afraid of its owner's anger. So adorable that Yi Qing Luo's maiden heart burst once again. Her fingers slid down and supported Dmo Xian's chin. Immediately she lowered her head and gave a light kiss on Dmo Xian's lips. After coaxing Dmo Xian, Yi Qing Luo lifted the curtains and bent over to sit outside the carriage. What she saw was her own horse pulling the carriage. That horse's head was constantly rubbing against the carriage in front. Yi Qing Luo tugged on the horse's rope and stopped the horse from moving forward. Immediately she urged the horse to turn towards the other side. But unexpectedly, her horse had just deviated by a step. All of a sudden, two luxurious carriages rushed over from both sides of the originally empty road. Yi Qing Luo's carriage was not only unable to advance or retreat, it was also sandwiched on both sides. At this moment, how could Yi Qing Luo not understand? These carriages were obviously here for her in broad daylight. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly as she tugged on the horse's rope and stopped the carriage. As expected, the carriages that had been attacking her from both sides stopped as well. The carriage in front also stopped. 3 carriages surrounded a small carriage. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that someone was stirring up trouble. The carriages that were passing by, upon seeing this situation, all adopted an indifferent attitude. Those who were watching the fun were watching the fun. Those who left immediately left. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as her gaze darkened slightly, sweeping towards the two carriages beside her. The two coachmen were tall and sturdy. Their faces were filled with sinister smiles. Their profound ranks were also above the earth profound realm. Seems like he came prepared. In the Nirvana realm, profound practitioners of the earth profound realm could already be considered experts. Yiqing Luo took a glance at the carriage which had already gone far away. Clearly, Gue Wu and the others were holding on to the attitude of watching a good show, and weren't prepared to help settle the matter. Yiqing Luo expressed that it was tiring to make a bunch of bad friends. She took a deep breath and pressed her fingers. It was better to deal with these troublemakers with his fists to save time. Her Xian was still in the carriage. If it took too long, her Xian would be worried. Both of you attack together, hurry up. Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose slightly as she threw a provocative look at the two coachmen. The common problem of Earth Profound Realm cultivators was that they were overconfident. Yiqing Luo's provocation made the two coachmen's expressions sunk. Chapter 2707. When Yiqing Luo saw this, her smile became even more radiant. Her long and narrow eyes curved, invisibly outlining a chilling cold. The two horse grooms felt an inexplicable chill down their spines. Obviously, the young lady in front of them was smiling. But when she stared at them, it was as if an icy cold hand was tightly strangling their throats, strangling their hearts. What was going on? A young lady who looked like she was only 14 or 15 years old, how could she have such a powerful aura? The two horse grooms immediately had the intention to retreat. Yiqing Luo tilted her head, her pink lips rose and her voice was filled with coldness. Why? Don't dare. If you don't dare, then scram. The icy cold words were full of evilness. Not waiting for the two horse grooms to react, a sharp cold laughter was heard from the carriage in front. Soon after, a woman dressed in white walked down from the carriage. Looking at the lady's face, she was about 18 or 19 years old. Her figure was excellent, curvy in all the right places. As she walked, every smile and frown was filled with a mature woman's charm. But Yiqing Luo looked at the lady's beautiful face. There was always a very strange feeling. She felt that this lady's temperament and that face was very incompatible. Miss Ye's tone is so arrogant. Do you think you have the protection of the Overlord? The lady's eyes, when looking at Yiqing Luo, were masked with a layer of undetectable jealousy and hatred. But this was jealousy and hatred. It didn't escape Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo raised her brows in interest. She was still curious. This lady in white looked so unfamiliar. Why was she so hostile towards her? Now, after hearing the lady in white's words, Yiqing Luo finally understood the reason behind it. So, this was Dmo Xian's rotten peach blossom again. Yiqing Luo laughed softly, her voice was very low, mixed with a trace of ridicule. Did Xiao Xian want her man? She had to see if she had that ability. What rotten peach blossom? Cut off one branch when it comes. Cut off a pear when it comes too. What are you laughing at? You look so ugly and you still have the cheek to seduce the Overlord? The white-robed lady saw the smile on Yiqing Luo's lips and was so infuriated that her fingers clenched into fists. Her delicate and beautiful facial features twisted bit by bit. His voice seemed to be covered in frost as he said through gritted teeth, "You're just a woman abandoned by His Majesty. Why are you so arrogant?" Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. Even if you want to be abandoned by him, you don't have this chance. Of course I can be arrogant. You. The lady in white was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down as she stared at Yiqing Luo with a malevolent expression. Pestering the Overlord's whore. You only know how to use your own shamelessness to seduce the overlord, and you still have the cheek to show off. If you're not convinced, aren't you shameless? Towards the white-robed lady's uncontrollable anger, Yi Qing Luo was extremely calm. His voice was lazy and casual, as if he was just talking about the weather. The lady in white was infuriated, the venom in her eyes almost drowned Yi Qing Luo. Sister May, why are you wasting your breath on her? This kind of woman doesn't care about her own face. When she's disgusting, she's more disgusting than anyone else. A 16 to 17-year-old lady walked out of the carriage on the left. The lady was dressed luxuriously. Yi Qing Luo had met her at Qinua's sect before, and she seemed to be a middle-sized powerhouse's daughter. She remembered that when they were at Qinua's sect's garden, Miao Rongrong had self-directed and self-acted, falling into the pond, and Dmo Xian came. Chapter 2708. As though she couldn't wait to let Dmo Xian see her real face clearly. Presumably, this was also one of Dmo Xian's retarded admirers. The door of the carriage on the right opened and a woman walked out. Little sister Sun is right. For a woman like Lady Yi, who has long abandoned herself for the sake of power, it's useless no matter how much we talk to her. The woman slowly walked towards the white-clothed woman. When the lady's face appeared in front of Yi Qing Luo's eyes, this indeed made Yi Qing Luo stunned for a moment. She blinked her eyes and a meaningful look flashed across her eyes. This woman was somewhat related to her. To be more precise, he had a deeper relationship with one of her brothers. This woman was none other than a stranger. It was Yan Xiaoyi's elder sister, the eldest daughter of the Yan family, Yan Zhenfei. The memories of Yan Zhenfei. Yi Qing Luo only stopped at that one time, when the dark forces invaded the West Continent. She had originally wanted to kill Wolf Saint Law. It was because of this Yan Zhenfei that she escaped with the Wolf Saint technique through a secret passage. As a result, she did not manage to catch the Wolf Saint technique. He originally thought that Yan Zhenfei had already died in the hands of the Wolf Saint technique. He did not expect to meet her here. Moreover, he seemed to be living a carefree life. Seeing Yan Zhenfei, the woman in white's ferocity disappeared. She smiled and took Yan Zhenfei's hand. Yan Zhenfei narrowed her eyes, and a trace of disdain appeared on her beautiful face for the white-clothed woman. However, Yan Zhenfei did not push the lady in white away. Instead, she said arrogantly, Sister May, Miss Yi was able to seduce the Dizun for such a long time not only because of her outstanding skills in that aspect, but also because of her eloquence. The woman in white nodded. Fei is right. We shouldn't waste any more time with Yi Luo. Yan Zhenfei arrogantly raised her chin, as she sized Yi Qing Luo up coldly. Following that, she sneered, imitating Yi Qing Luo, you've done your best to imitate her, but unfortunately, a fake is ultimately a fake. The last few words came out of her mouth one by one. The bite was extremely forceful. She was biting very proudly. When he heard the three words, Yi Qing Luo, that white-robed lady's petite body started to tremble slightly as her eyes instantly fell onto Yi Qing Luo. Seeing Yi Qing Luo remaining silent, Yan Zhenfei thought that she had poked right into Yi Qing Luo's thoughts as she smiled even more complacently. Everyone knows that the Overlord's true love is only Yi Qing Luo alone. As she said that, she sized up Yi Qing Luo from top to bottom. Red clothes, long hair like a fox, and a demonic and alluring temperament. That's how you managed to attract His Majesty's attention, right? Yan Zhenfei's words stunned the other two women. Big Sister Yan, what did you say? Imitation? Is she trying to imitate Lord Dizun's true love? The woman on the left side of the carriage, Sun Yutong, asked in surprise. Yan Zhenfei didn't bother about Sun Yutong as she continued to look at Yi Qing Luo, as though she wanted to see the panic on her face after being exposed. However, Yan Zhenfei was disappointed. On Yi Qing Luo's face, there wasn't any expression which Yan Zhenfei wanted to see. She only raised her brows as her lips curled into a cold arc of ridicule. Yan Zhenfei's expression sunk as her voice turned even colder. Yi Luo, you fake. Without the Overlord's protection, I want to see what ability you have to safely take part in the Miao Tribe's Sacred Maiden selection. Asterisk, the winner's name list is pinned at the top of the book reviews section. The winner's baby, please add Master Mo's private number to claim your prize. The deadline is November 19th. Chapter 2709. Counterfeit? Finally, the young lady who had been silent finally opened her mouth. Her voice still carried a hint of laziness that was unique to her. It sounds like this, Miss Yen. Looks like you and the so-called Yi Qing Luo are on good terms. Why do you have an attitude of standing up for her? Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved into a smile and the sparkling luster in her pupils were dazzling brilliance. Yan Zhenfei's pupils contracted as her arrogant face surfaced a sliver of anger. Who's standing up for that slut? I'm only reminding you that you're a counterfeit and no longer have any value, so you should disappear obediently and stop embarrassing yourself. The smile in Yi Qing Luo's eyes grew even deeper. Following that, under the three ladies' eyes, she slowly spat out a word. Oh. Yan Zhenfei's expression turned as white as a pot of ash. Sun Yutong and Mei's expressions turned extremely ugly. Following that, Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her gaze swept across the three of them. You're done. Are you going to scram or fight? Don't waste time. This kind of arrogant attitude. It made the trio's dissatisfaction towards Yi Qing Luo skyrocket to the peak. All right. Yi Luo, do you really think you're Yi Qing Luo? You're merely a counterfeit who has lost the protection of the Overlord. Yan Zhenfei's eyes turned cold as her murderous intent manifested and a burst of profound energy shot out from both her palms. Did you really think that after imitating Yi Qing Luo's insolence, you're really Yi Qing Luo? The moment her palm landed, she didn't forget to shout out sharply, Sun Yutong, Mei. The white-robed lady, who was Mei, didn't conceal her jealousy and hatred towards Yi Qing Luo. Upon hearing Yan Zhenfei's voice, her eyes were filled with murderous intent as she released her power. Her 5 fingers instantly turned into an illusory image as she charged towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Indistinctly, Mei's illusory fingers turned into sharp claws. The few spectators could see it clearly. Behind Yi Qing Luo's back, a black void started to spread. A sharp claw stretched out from that void. The fingers were all sharp and glinting sharply as it stabbed towards Yi Qing Luo's back. An illusory girl. It was as if he did not notice the changes behind him at all. It was like he placed all his attention on fighting against Yan Zhenfei. The onlookers all sighed at the girl. Without the protection of the Overlord, the only thing that awaited this young lady was death. She was just a girl who had been abandoned by Di Zun. There was no need for them to offend those 3 young misses for her sake. Yan Zhenfei and Yi Qing Luo were facing each other so naturally she could clearly see that sharp claw which appeared from the void behind Yi Qing Luo's back. Yan Zhenfei's lips curled into a vicious smile. The palm wind which was slapped towards Yi Qing Luo, at this instance, exploded with profound energy, as though the power of a raging storm, as it surged forward. A pincer attack. She refused to believe it. That bastard Yi Luo was still alive. Just as Yan Zhenfei was extremely complacent, her palm wind was about to land on Yi Qing Luo's chest. For some reason, he suddenly felt a chill in his heart. An indescribable sense of danger invaded her body and mind. Yan Zhenfei's palm wind had a momentary pause. The young lady in front of her gave her an evil smile. Her curved brows made her long and narrow arc look even more devilish. That pair of vibrant eyes revealed a smirk which didn't look like a smile yet not a smile. Yan Zhenfei seemed to have realized something as her pupils suddenly constricted, immediately wanting to leave. But it was too late. Chapter 2710. Fast. What a fast speed. Yan Zhenfei looked at the disappearing young lady in disbelief. A thought that even she could not believe flashed across her mind. But the thought had yet to form. She had no time to think deeply about it. Bam, 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 a series of explosions were heard. On the ground, there were pieces of cracks. Billowing airwaves surged, and in the air, there seemed to be a terrifying storm. There were a few other powerhouses' horse carriages which were overturned by this strong wind. The airflow spun rapidly. The air started to distort. That violent wave of chi gradually subsided. Two faintly discernible figures were also revealed. The sharp claws clashed with the palm wind. The place where they clashed was mixed with raging profound chi. Ah! A miserable shriek was heard. One of the figures flew out violently. She flew for at least 10 meters before crashing into a big tree. That figure was rebounded by the tree's momentum and fell heavily onto the ground. While the other figure, who was standing in the middle, also retreated 2 steps. Suddenly, she raised one hand and clutched her chest. A mouthful of blood was spat out from her mouth. The surrounding airwave completely dissipated. It also revealed everything on this small path to everyone's eyes. Yan Zhenfei clutched her chest as her body swayed slightly. She stood there with a ghastly pale face. While 10 meters away, the white-robed lady laid on the ground as her white dress was dyed red with blood. Her fingers moved slightly. Sister Mei. Sun Yutong saw the figure on the ground and immediately rushed over. This scene fell into the eyes of the few spectators, and all of them revealed an incredulous expression. How? How did it become these 2 young ladies who were fighting in a mess? Weren't these 2 young ladies working together to deal with the Overlord's abandoned wife? Right, where was the Overlord's abandoned wife? When everyone thought of this, they started to look around, searching for Yi Qing Luo's figure. Giggle giggle. Just at this moment, an ethereal laughter was heard in the air. That laughter was extremely melodious. Yan Zhenfei's back froze and her face turned pale. She immediately raised her head and looked in the direction of the voice. However, the voice seemed to come from all directions. Yan Zhenfei couldn't tell the direction where the sound came from. Everyone else felt the same way. Yan Zhenfei's breathing grew heavier. She pursed her lips and turned to walk towards her carriage. However, just as Yan Zhenfei moved her feet, a voice rang out. A gentle slap landed on her shoulder. A cold intent spread over Yan Zhenfei's skin. Yan Zhenfei's body instantly froze. Miss Yan, are you in a hurry to leave? You haven't even dealt with me, a fake, and you're willing to leave? The girl's clear and sweet voice floated into his ears. The distance between them was very close. What made Yan Zhenfei unable to restrain herself was a scream of terror coming from her throat. Quick, it was really fast. This girl called Yi Luo was too fast. Yan Zhenfei's body went limp. Where was the slightest hint of arrogance on his face? Just now, Shi and Mei had attacked from the front and back. He wanted to take Yi Luo's life. Because of Yi Luo's lightning-fast speed. As a result, her palm wind directly clashed against Mei's Yin claw, which stretched out from the void. Damned slut. Yi Luo intentionally pretended not to notice Mei's sneak attack. Following that, she incited her murderous intent. Taking advantage of the situation where Shi and Mei were unable to retract their attacks. Chapter 27:11. Treacherous. Too sinister. Yan Zhenfei was so angry that she gritted her teeth, her expression savage. Her figure speedily retreated backwards, avoiding Yi Qing Luo's palm. She turned around and stared vigilantly at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Luo, you're just an abandoned woman who has been abandoned by the Overlord, without any power or influence. How dare you lay a hand on the few of us? Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to walk to the Miao Stockade village alive? Yi Qing Luo was tickled. Before this, you should be more worried if you still have the life to see me walk to the Miao tribe alive. How dare you? Yan Zhenfei gritted her teeth. Do you know who I am? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't think much of it. Do you know, before Xian, before the Overlord appeared, how did I topple the Battle King's manor, topple the Miao tribes? Former clan leader? Shock flashed across Yan Zhenfei's eyes. Apparently, he didn't know what had happened to Yi Qing Luo in the northern continent. This look of astonishment made Yi Qing Luo have a new guess. She laughed softly as her gaze seemed to shoot a glance towards May's direction. Miss Yen seems to trust Miss May a lot. Yan Zhenfei's pale face darkened. How could she not hear the ridicule in Yi Qing Luo's tone? Indeed. She will appear here. He would help May deal with this woman called Yi Luo. It was because of May's request. Because May had said that this woman called Yi Luo was once favored by His Majesty. When Di Zun was mentioned, Yan Zhenfei thought of the woman she hated so much. Yi Qing Luo. That was the slut who had caused her to fall from the high and mighty miss of the Yan family to this day. She had to rely on her own beauty to drag out an ignoble existence. Especially when he heard the woman's name, Yi Luo. The more Yan Zhenfei wanted to eradicate this. Yi Luo, who was similar to Yi Qing Luo in all aspects. From May's description, Yi Luo was just an arrogant, despotic, and lawless idiot who relied on the Lord Di Zun's favor. Yi Luo himself did not have any strong points. But now, he had been abandoned by the Overlord. She was just an abandoned woman. Now, Yan Zhenfei understood. She was being used by May. I'll believe whoever I like, it's none of your business. Yan Zhenfei suppressed the anger in her heart. Yan Zhenfei was not stupid. If she confronted May about this matter at this time. He even used this as an excuse to argue with May. In the end, the one who benefited was Yi Luo. In the end, it was still Yi Luo who was watching the show. Yan Zhenfei clenched her fists and suddenly smiled. Yi Luo, don't compare me to the warlord's mansion and the Miao tribe. Let me tell you, no matter how much ability you have, even if Yi Qing Luo herself is here, this miss can still make you kneel down and beg for mercy. Yan Zhenfei raised her head arrogantly like a rooster that had won a fight. Sun Yutong, come here and tell her who I am. On the other side, Sun Yutong, who was still supporting Plum, trembled slightly when she heard this. He seemed to be instinctively afraid of Yan Zhenfei. I asked you to come over, so why are you still standing there? Yan Zhenfei already had a bad opinion of May. Seeing that Sun Yutong was still supporting May and ignoring her orders, Yan Zhenfei felt a little annoyed. Instantly, he felt indignant in front of Yi Qing Luo. She vented all her frustrations on Sun Yutong. Sun Yutong was shocked by Yan Zhenfei as she immediately retracted her hand and jogged towards Yan Zhenfei's direction. May, who had lost her support, fell heavily to the ground again. However, Chapter 27:12. Sun Yutong jogged over to Yan Zhenfei and called out in a low voice, Sister Yan, do you need me to repeat myself? Yan Zhenfei's tone was heavy, full of danger. Sun Yutong was so frightened that her entire body trembled, and her eyes reddened. No need. Sister Yan, don't be angry. Sun Yutong's attitude towards her successfully pleased Yan Zhenfei. It seemed to satisfy her vanity to be above everyone else. Yan Zhenfei intentionally threw a provocative glance at Yi Qing Luo. It seemed to be telling Yi Qing Luo, see how powerful I am. Towards this, Yi Qing Luo expressed, plus, he rolled his eyes. In the eyes of Yi Qing Luo, Yan Zhenfei's arrogant behavior was called bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Bullying those who were weaker than him was just to show off his nobility. On the contrary, it made Yan Zhenfei's status even more awkward. Sun Yutong raised her head and looked at Yi Qing Luo. His eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Luo, don't think that because of the Overlord's protection, you destroyed the Battle King's residence, destroyed the former Miao tribe, and even destroyed the Northern Wave's royal family. But now you're the Overlord's abandoned wife. Sister Yan is a god you can't afford to offend. Where did this girl learn such Chinibu lines? When Sun Yutong said this, she became more confident. Sister Yen is not someone from the Nirvana realm. She is a distinguished messenger from the upper realm. A messenger from the upper realm? His words caused the onlookers to burst into an uproar. This road was the only way to reach the Miaogu clan. Because of this, most of the carriages that appeared on this small path belonged to the various forces that were heading to the Miaogu clan to watch the Holy Maiden selection. Naturally, they understood very well how unattainable the upper realm was for them. This Miss Yen was actually someone from the upper realm? The way the surrounding people looked at Yen Zhenfei changed. Yen Zhenfei enjoyed this look very much. He enjoyed the feeling of being revered and subdued by tens of thousands of people. The smile on her face became more and more arrogant. There wasn't even half a shred of the wretched and fearful state when he faced Yi Qing Luo earlier. However, reality did not develop in the direction they had imagined. Yi Qing Luo didn't kneel down to beg for mercy because of the shock. On the contrary, he was looking at them with a faint smile. The brilliance between his brows floated, as if he was mocking them, but it also seemed like a casual smile. The upper realm? Miss Yen? You don't believe me? Sun Yutong saw Yi Qing Luo's expression and immediately put on a straight face as she took out the invitation letter from the Miaogu family from her sleeve. Take a good look at it yourself. What's written on the invitation? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she fixed her gaze over. On the open invitation letter, there was a delicate handwriting that said, Palace of Darkness Emissary, Yen Feifei. Dark, palace? Yi Qing Luo muttered these 3 words word by word. He lifted his head. She looked at Yen Zhenfei's smug face, waiting for her to be scared, flustered, and begging for mercy. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes. What place is this? The smile on Yen Zhenfei's face froze. Sun Yutong's complacent mood also froze on her face. You're doing this on purpose. Sun Yutong was hopping mad. Palace of Darkness. Don't you know what kind of place Palace of Darkness is? I've only heard of the Imperial Palace. Yi Qing Luo shook her head honestly. Yen Zhenfei's steely green face started to darken bit by bit. Chapter 27:13. When the surrounding crowd heard the name, Palace of Darkness, all of their faces turned pale instantly. The way they looked at Yen Zhenfei was not only filled with admiration when they heard that she was a messenger from the upper realm. It was mixed with a sliver of fear. Yes, it was fear. Palace of Darkness. It's the messenger from Palace of Darkness. Is it that Palace of Darkness whose power had expanded to the point where it was second only to the Imperial Palace in just half a month? I heard that. Palace of Darkness had recruited numerous elites, and many cultivators who were rated as geniuses were all recruited by Palace of Darkness. I heard another rumor. As long as one could enter Palace of Darkness and become a disciple of Palace of Darkness, as long as one had an outstanding performance and made a huge contribution to Palace of Darkness, one would be able to become a member of the upper realm directly. Right. I also heard that as long as one entered Palace of Darkness, the speed of advancement is simply shocking. One person mentioned Palace of Darkness. Following that, numerous people started to talk about the rumors that they had heard. One after another. The more they talked, the more mysterious and powerful this Palace of Darkness seemed. Immediately, a few cultivators directly knelt down towards Yen Zhenfei's direction. Miss Messenger, I wish to join Palace of Darkness. These people's discussions, plus those few cultivators who knelt down and pleaded. This made Yen Zhenfei's smile become even more arrogant. She looked at Yi Qing Luo provocatively and gave a cold harumph. Yi Luo, I am the messenger from Palace of Darkness, an esteemed messenger from the upper realm. Do you think you can kill me? Her tone was filled with complacency. But, Yen Zhenfei's complacency and arrogance. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't put it in her eyes. The current Yi Qing Luo's expression was slightly gloomy as she stared at the name on the invitation letter. In her mind, she swiftly rearranged the surrounding powerhouse's conversation. She roughly knew what kind of place this palace of darkness was. According to her understanding. In order to maintain the balance of each plane, upper realms powerhouses were absolutely not allowed to appear in Nirvana realms plane. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the existence of the balanced historian. So, this palace of darkness absolutely couldn't be a powerhouse from the upper realm. But where did those rumors regarding Palace of Darkness come from? Wait. Yiqing Luo's mind cleared up as she thought of something. Yan Jinfei. Back then, she had escaped with the wolf holy technique and the remaining pharaohs and holy techniques of the dark forces. Although the historian of balance had also interfered in this matter. However, after all, she did not see the balance historian take the people from the dark forces away with her own eyes. On top of that, one of the forces had mentioned it earlier. Joining the gloomy palace would allow one's cultivation speed to skyrocket in a short period of time. It was very similar to the arcane yin qi of the dark forces. This gloom palace, could it be related to the dark forces? This thought made Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. He had to ask Peach to investigate what kind of place the Palace of Darkness was. At this moment, Yiqing Luo had no mood to continue tangling with Yan Jinfei. She turned around and was about to enter the carriage to leave. Just as she turned around, Sun Yutong blocked her way. After hearing Big Sister Yan's identity, you were so scared that you wanted to escape? Let me tell you, if you can't appease Sister Yan today, don't even think about leaving this place. Yiqing Luo. Did she look like she was frightened? Chapter 27:14. A messenger from the upper realm? Miss Yan, as a fake who knows Yiqing Luo very well, do you think that I don't know who you are? She chuckled softly, and there was a hint of laziness in her tone. Yiqing Luo's words had just landed. Yan Jinfei's body froze. Her eyes slowly shifted onto Yiqing Luo's face. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up frivolously. Her tone was indifferent. If you don't wish to blow up this matter, now, move aside. It was clearly just a cold and indifferent voice. But for no reason at all, it made one feel pressured. Under this pressure, Yan Jinfei's face paled. The smile on his face could no longer be maintained. If one were to take a closer look, perhaps, one would be able to see that her body was trembling slightly. Why did this woman know her identity? She had obviously concealed everything so well. In everyone's eyes, she was a distinguished envoy from the upper realm. She was the emissary of the Abyss Palace. From the beginning to the end, they were people from the upper realm. No, she could not let this woman expose her identity. She could not be treated as a lowly person from the lower realm. This secret must be hidden forever. The more Yan Jinfei thought, the more flustered she became. Yi Luo, Yan Jinfei's voice suddenly lowered. She fixed her gaze on Yiqing Luo's eyes, and that pair of beautiful eyes was suddenly tainted with a ball of black fog like ink. The moment Yiqing Luo met that pair of eyes, her heart was beating strangely. In front of his eyes, there was a momentary daze. However, in the next instant, a scorching heat surged from his heart. Bit by bit, it burned her consciousness. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her spiritual consciousness became clear. This is, Yan Jinfei wanted to control her? Yiqing Luo asked herself, she who had experienced 2 lives. Her mental state was already solid and indestructible. Her spiritual power was also beyond ordinary people's. Generally speaking, she was not easy to control. What's more, Yan Jinfei's mental energy was too powerful. How could he control her? But just now, if it wasn't for the profound Heart Jade's reminder, she might really lose her mind. Just as Yiqing Luo was preparing to retaliate. Suddenly, a large palm covered her eyes. A gush of warm profound energy entered her eyes at a speed that was neither too fast nor too slow. In an instant, all the controlling power that Yan Jinfei had injected into her body was swept away. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. A familiar plum fragrance wafted into his nose. She frowned. She didn't need to open her eyes to know who it was. Zhu Wuxin. Don't look at her. A cold and indifferent voice floated down from above. The man moved closer to her. The scent of the plum blossom became clearer and entered her nose. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased as she raised her hand to push Zhu Wuxian's arm away. Zhu Wuxin's ice-cold voice rang in his ears again. You can't resist her eyes. Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth, but the words she wanted to say didn't come out. He was interrupted by Yan Zhenfei's sharp voice. Castle Master of Death God Castle, why are you stopping me? She's mine. Zhu Wuxian calmly opened his mouth as his eyes were calm. Whoever touches her, dies. Yan Zhenfei was so shocked that she retreated a few steps. Her hands were clenched tightly in unwillingness. Castle Master of Death God Castle, don't forget that I'm the one you should help. Whoever touches her, dies. Zhu Wuxian's tone was calm as his icy cold face repeated these few words without any warmth. 5 simple words. Chapter 27:15. Yan Zhenfei didn't seem to use her brain as she stared at Yi Qing Luo hysterically. You say she's your person, then do you know that this woman, she's the woman who was abandoned by the Overlord? Zhu Wuxian's calm face started to fluctuate slightly. His dark and gloomy eyes stared coldly at Yan Zhenfei. This was the first time Yan Zhenfei saw a different kind of emotion from Zhu Wuxian. This was the proof. What she said earlier had indeed poked Zhu Wuxian's sore spot. Yan Zhenfei's heart was filled with fear, but thinking of her status in the secluded palace, especially. She didn't wish for Zhu Wuxian to have any feelings for that ordinary-looking young lady. She mustered up her courage as she screamed out, Castle Lord, don't be cheated by this woman. She used all sorts of methods to seduce the Overlord, and now that the Overlord is tired of playing with her, she's thinking of using you. Castle Lord, she's a B***tch who can sleep with anyone. Ah. Yan Zhenfei had yet to finish her curses. Right in front of her, a gust of icy cold wind blade directly smashed onto her face. Yan Zhenfei cried out miserably. She was thrown onto the ground by that gust of wind. Her beautiful face was lacerated by the hurricane, and thick blood oozed out of her wounds. Yan Zhenfei was so shocked that she covered her face as she raised her head in terror. Castle Lord, you hurt my face. Your mouth is very dirty. Zhu Wuxian said coldly as his emotionless expression revealed a bone-piercing chill. Yan Zhenfei instinctively covered her mouth. She shrank backwards as she looked at Zhu Wuxian while shivering. Why? Why did all the men with distinguished statuses all stand on that slut Yi Luo's side? Obviously her looks, as compared to Yi Luo, were much more beautiful. Her status and strength were obviously much greater than Yi Luo's. But beside Yi Luo, there was the Overlord in front and Death God Castle's Castle Lord behind to protect him. She couldn't accept it. She couldn't accept it. Yan Zhenfei's fingers, which were covering her face, started to curl up slightly. Tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. Her eyelashes were wet, and she put on a pitiful look. Lord Castle Lord, I just don't want you to be deceived. She is a woman abandoned by His Majesty, an abandoned woman. Everyone in the Northern Waves continent knows that. As she spoke, she tugged hard on Sun Yutong's sleeve. Sun Yutong looked at Zhu Wuxian in a daze. It wasn't until Yan Zhenfei pulled that Sun Yutong came back to her senses. She looked dazedly at Zhu Wuxian's face and nodded. Yes, she's an abandoned wife, this is even better. Zhu Wuxin's cold voice was extremely quiet. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she seemed to hear a hint of joy in his voice. Zhu Wuxin. Pleasure. No matter how he thought about it, he felt that words related to emotions had nothing to do with Zhu Wuxin. As soon as Zhu Wuxian's voice fell, his long arms suddenly pulled the girl in front of him into his embrace. His large palm was still pressed against the girl's eyes, not allowing her to open her eyes. Dmo Xian doesn't want her, then she belongs to me alone. Zhu Wu Xian lowered his head and his cold thin lips pressed on the girl's head. Yan Zhenfei and Sun Yutong covered their mouths and cried out in shock. Was the Lord Castle Lord crazy? An abandoned wife that the overlord didn't want actually treated her like a treasure? That damn Yi Luo. Chapter 27:16. Cough cough. Yi Qing Luo, who had been isolated outside the battlefield, gave a few dry coughs. She raised her hand and through her sleeves, she placed it on Zhu Wu Xian's wrist, which was covering her eyes. Zhu Wu Xian, you're chatting so happily, can you move your hand away? Zhu Wu Xian's arm stiffened slightly. After some time, he moved his hand away. Yi Qing Luo's eyes regained its brightness. She squinted her eyes as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian indifferently. Please move this hand away. She pointed to the hand on her shoulder. Zhu Wu Xian looked at her deeply. His gaze was deep, as though he wanted to carve her looks into his heart. It was until Yi Qing Luo's heart started to feel goosebumps when he slowly released his hand. Yi Qing Luo speedily shifted a few steps to the side, distancing herself from Zhu Wu Xian's boundary. What a joke. Her dear Xian was still waiting for her in the carriage. If her dear Xian saw that she was touched by another man, his emotions might fluctuate again. The vinegar jar would be thrown around. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips as her tone was distant. Master Zhu, don't say such things which will cause others to misunderstand. You and I are not familiar. Zhu Wu Xian's gaze suddenly turned chilly. That cold face also turned slightly pale. Yi Luo, don't be ungrateful. Yan Zhenfei couldn't take it anymore. Castle Lord is willing to speak up for you, why are you still pretending? Yan Zhenfei was about to go crazy from anger. To be more precise, she was about to go crazy from jealousy. She was jealous of Yi Luo's good luck. Jealous of Yi Luo, who was able to obtain the overlord's love and now Zhu Wu Xian's special treatment. Secluded Palace and Death God Castle had a collaboration. Yan Zhenfei was the clearest. Zhu Wu Xian, this person, like his name, had no heart. There was no one who could make him take a second look. Except for Yi Qing Luo. Unfortunately, Yi Qing Luo didn't know about it. She actually used such an attitude to treat Castle Lord. Was she intentionally relying on Castle Lord's special treatment to be pampered and arrogant? Hearing Yan Zhenfei's voice, Yi Qing Luo wasn't interested in her words. She frowned slightly as she sized Yan Zhenfei up carefully. Yan Zhenfei had some kind of mysterious power. Through her eyes, she was able to influence the minds of others, and control them. Was this mysterious force related to the Palace of Gloomy Shadows? Was it related to the dark forces? If that was the case, it seemed that the dark forces were not going to give up. Do you still want to make a comeback by using the reputation of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness? She had to ask Jun Qinggu about this matter as soon as possible. Let Jun Qingwu investigate, like this, with the dark forces as the background, using the upper realm as a gimmick, built the so-called Palace of Darkness, and accepted countless talented disciples of the mystic grade. Does this count as a violation of the Plains Treaty of Equilibrium? Most importantly, if this matter was really as she had guessed, the venom in Dmo Xian's body must be removed as soon as possible. After all, it was obvious that the Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted to surpass the Arch Palace. Before this, because of Feng Ling and the granny of the Imperial Palace, the Imperial Palace's situation had changed. It was no longer as glorious as it was when it was at its peak. Now, there was the Abyss Palace. As the Emperor of the Imperial Palace, Dmo Xian had to lead the Imperial Palace's disciples to suppress the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. What are you looking at? Yan Zhenfei felt as though she was being scrutinized by Yi Qing Luo's gaze, as though she wasn't wearing any clothes. But because Zhu Wu Xian was by the side. Chapter 27:17. Yi Qing Luo directly retracted her gaze as she turned around and boarded the little carriage, pulling the horse rope and sitting properly. This time, there was Zhu Wu Xian, the great Buddha, around. No one stopped her. Yi Qing Luo directly pulled the carriage, passing by Yan Zhenfei as she headed towards the small path in front. She left? Mei finally held her chest as she stood up, only to see Yi Qing Luo's little carriage moving forward without even turning her head back. She hurriedly stumbled over to Yan Zhenfei's side as she panted, "Fei, why did you let her go? If she left, would she let us off?" Before she could finish her words, Yan Zhenfei's face had already turned black as she swatted Mei's hand away. "Not letting me off or not letting you off? You know it clearly in your heart." Saying that, she gave a cold harumph and didn't look at Mei anymore. Yan Zhenfei cupped her hands towards Zhu Wu Xian's direction. That face, which was lacerated by profound qi, was still bleeding. "Castle Lord, I'll make a move first." Zhu Wu Xian didn't even bother to take a look at her. Instead, he used a pair of icy cold eyes, as he fixed his gaze on the direction which Yi Qing Luo had left towards. Following that, he took a step forward and chased after her. Yan Zhenfei, who was neglected, had an ugly expression on her face, as she was extremely embarrassed. She clenched her teeth as she stomped her feet, flicking her sleeves as she quickly returned to her own carriage. On the other side, Mei was swung by Yan Zhenfei and her originally tottering body totally couldn't stand properly as she fell onto the ground. Her face turned slightly pale as her eyes stared in shock at Yan Zhenfei's departing figure. Following that, her gaze shot towards the yes-man's Sun Yutong, who was standing by the side. The moment Mei made eye contact with her, Sun Yutong seemed as though she was shocked as her entire body shuddered. She looked at Mei for a long time as her red lips moved. Just as she was about to say something, a lady's stern voice was heard from the carriage in front. "Sun Yutong, come over." Sun Yutong immediately shut her mouth as her brows drooped downwards, as she obediently walked towards the carriage in front. Mei's expression was instantly filled with gloomy clouds. Yi Qing Luo controlled the little carriage, and after it was far away from Yan Zhenfei and the rest, she released the horse rope. With her small carriage, it would be difficult for her to catch up with Gui Wu and the others. Moreover, instead of chasing after that group of bad friends, she might as well spend time with her dear Xian, get along with each other, and be affectionate. Yi Qing Luo was preparing to return to the carriage to comfort her and kiss Xian. His bowed body suddenly stiffened. Her ears twitched and her brows furrowed. She straightened her body and looked at the back of the carriage. As expected, he saw a figure that was burning like a raging fire rapidly approaching. Yi Qing Luo stopped the carriage. That figure steadily stopped in front of her. It brought along a gust of cold wind. "Why are you following me?" Yi Qing Luo's brows creased. "Death God Castle's Castle Lord, as the collaborator of the Palace of Darkness, aren't you afraid of others laughing at you for running over to chase after me, an abandoned woman who has made enemies with the Palace of Darkness envoy? You don't like Gloomy Palace." His voice was very calm, and no emotions could be heard from it. "Then I'll cancel my cooperation with them." Yi Qing Luo, although she indeed didn't want to see Zhu Wu Xian and the Palace of Darkness working together. But this had nothing to do with other superfluous feelings. Only, she didn't wish for the day that she would become enemies with this Zhu Wu Xian, who had saved her several times, and had an extremely deep obsession towards the original owner. But Zhu Wu Xian's words, why did it sound like? Chapter 27:18. Zhu Wu Xian should continue to cooperate with the Nether Palace. He was bound to clash with her. Zhu Wu Xian wouldn't cooperate with the Nether Palace, right? Why did it feel as though Zhu Wu Xian didn't want the throne but the beauty? Zhu Wu Xian didn't care about what Yi Qing Luo was thinking as his dark pupils stared coldly at her. His gaze was focused without blinking. Following that, he said something shocking. "Yi Qing Luo, since you've already been abandoned by Dmo Xian, then from now onwards, follow me." Yi Qing Luo. What was Zhu Wu Xian thinking? That. Yi Qing Luo swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Don't joke around. It's not a joke. Zhu Wu Xian suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed one of her arms as his eyes turned icy cold as his pupils turned black. He doesn't want you, I do. Zhu Wu Xian's expression was unprecedentedly serious. His brows creased as his gaze turned deeper. As though it was a bottomless deep pond. Yi Qing Luo took a step back as she tried to retract her hand. But Zhu Wu Xian's strength was extremely strong. She couldn't struggle free at all. Yi Qing Luo, you're mine. You promised me that you will become my wife. Zhu Wu Xian pursed his lips as his expression was extremely serious and solemn. He said it word by word, very clearly, and with great emphasis on enunciating each word. He had guts. As though he was trying to memorize some lines. This was especially so since Zhu Wuxin was using such an expressionless face to say those words. Extremely inconsistent. Zhu Wu Xian couldn't sense Yi Qing Luo's inner world. He continued, spitting out each word, between you and me, there's only one DMO Xian. Now that there's no DMO Xian, you should follow me in peace and become my bride. I can assure you that I will absolutely not abandon you. Yi Qing Luo. She was struck by lightning once again. After Zhu Wu Xian finished his words, that hand which was holding Yi Qing Luo suddenly exerted force as he pulled Yi Qing Luo's body into his arms. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo felt an intense murderous intent assaulting her. Yi Qing Luo quivered as she abruptly raised her hand and pushed Zhu Wu Xian away. Wait. She quickly took a few steps back. After getting far away from Zhu Wu Xian, she raised her head and raised her voice to express her loyalty. Young Master Zhu, let's not talk about whether or not A Xian has abandoned me. Even if it's true, I will not follow you. Zhu Wuxin's eyes turned cold. Yi Qing Luo coughed lightly and continued, between us, even if there's no A Xian, I will not become your bride. Because no matter if we're together or married, it's all because of love. At this point, she paused and her tone became unprecedentedly serious. Chu Wuxin, I don't love you. So, regardless of whether A Xian is here or not, I will not be with you, much less marry you. A cool breeze blew. On both sides of the path, the dense leaves rustled. However, no matter how hard they tried, they could not disperse the strange atmosphere between the two of them. After a long time, until Yi Qing Luo felt a little tired from standing, she then gave up the idea of waiting for Zhu Wu Xian's reaction. She raised her brows and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. She asked indifferently, Zhu Wuxin, who taught you what you said just now? Zhu Wu Xian's emotionless face froze slightly. His gaze also had an undetectable change at this instance. These words are not something you can say. Yi Qing Luo indicated that every time Zhu Wu Xian faced her, the most he would say were these few sentences. Chapter 27:19. Just like today, pulling her along in such a serious manner, various overbearing and provocative actions as well as words. There was absolutely someone who was teaching him. Furthermore, Zhu Wuxin had said such a simple line awkwardly and stutteringly. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed as though he had memorized it. A faint blush appeared on Zhu Wuxin's cold face. His eyes, which were staring at Yi Qing Luo, subconsciously looked towards other places. This further confirmed Yi Qing Luo's guess. She couldn't help but laughed out. I say, Master Zhu, surely you aren't flirting with me, right? Zhu Wu Xian's expression instantly turned gloomy. His jet-black pupils were surging with a chilly glint. His icy cold voice rang, what's so funny about this? If it was anyone else, it indeed wouldn't be funny. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian, but, it's you. The dignified castle lord of Death God Castle, you who can create an iceberg no matter where you go, actually know how to flirt. Her eyes curved into a smile. Who is the person who taught you? He actually taught you to use such a lousy method. Zhu Wuxian's jade-like face looked even colder. He was expressionless as he looked at Yi Qing Luo silently. Especially when he saw Yi Qing Luo's smiling face. His gaze turned cold. As though a cold glint flashed past his eyes. Revealing a cold and charming glint. All of a sudden, his figure moved. Two large palms pressed heavily on Yi Qing Luo's shoulders. The man's plum fragrance assailed her nostrils. Yi Qing Luo was just about to move. The strength on her shoulders pressed even tighter. She raised her hand. But at the next moment, it was held tightly by the man's large palm. Women's strength had always been inferior to men. Especially for men like Zhu Wuxian. Yi Qing Luo couldn't struggle at all. Zhu Wuxian's black pupils were sparkling with a clear and crystalline cold glint as his slightly pale lips curled into an inexplicable cold arc. Yi Qing Luo was stunned by this Zhu Wuxian. All along, Zhu Wuxian's emotions were extremely indifferent, as though he had no emotions at all. This was the first time Yi Qing Luo saw such a rich expression on Zhu Wuxian's face. Revealing a sliver of coldness. Is it funny? Zhu Wuxian's voice was extremely cold. It was as if a block of ice had sunk into her heart. His hands were wide and big. With one hand, he easily clasped both of her wrists and pressed them against a thick tree trunk behind her. Is my feelings for you so funny? He repeated the words again, his dark eyes filled with a frightening aura. Yes, I want you. I want to be with you and fulfill the promise we made when we were young. Did I do anything wrong? Zhu Wuxian's voice also became increasingly heavy. Like a large bell, it pounded on Yi Qing Luo's heart. Zhu Wuxian fixed his eyes on her face and his voice became heavier. Because it's you, that's why I'll take great pains to please you. I want to see you, because of my words, to reveal the smile that you had when you were facing Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled violently. His heart skipped a beat. That was right, Zhu Wuxian was not wrong. It was just that he was too stubborn about the past. He was unable to let go of the warmth he had met for the first time in his life. That warmth had now been transferred to another soul. It had become another soul. This was not Zhu Wuxian's fault. Like Zhu Wuxian, he could be called as a heartless person. Chapter 27:20. She shouldn't laugh. She shouldn't feel that Zhu Wuxian's action of flirting with her was especially silly. She could choose not to accept Zhu Wuxian. She could reject Zhu Wuxian. But she couldn't make fun of Zhu Wuxian's changes in order to flirt with her. And she couldn't look down on Zhu Wuxian's stubborn heart because of her. Her pink lips moved as she looked at Zhu Wuxian. So, sorry. I'm not. Before she could even finish her words of apology. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and locked onto Yi Qing Luo's waist. An extremely elegant plum fragrance kept gushing into her nose. Yi Qing Luo's pupils gradually enlarged. Zhu Wuxian's grave and stern face. What did he want to do? Was he going to forcefully kiss her? She realized Zhu Wuxian's crazy actions. Yi Qing Luo's pupils enlarged. Her hands, which were restrained, immediately started to struggle. The man pressed on her, not willing to let go of her. An overbearing and cold man's aura. This made Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly. Her charming eyes turned slightly chilly as she moved her face away to avoid Zhu Wuxian's kiss. Just as she was about to lift her leg to attack Zhu Wuxian and escape. Suddenly, a burst of dense profound qi came pressing over. At the next instant, Yi Qing Luo's body felt light. Her body broke away from Zhu Wuxian's control. The elegant sandalwood fragrance instantly enveloped her petite body, expelling the other aura from her body. Between her breath, there was only that familiar and reassuring sandalwood fragrance. But faintly, there was a heartbeat. Yi Qing Luo's heart instantly calmed down. At that instant, Yi Qing Luo almost couldn't feel Zhu Wuxian's existence at all. Her heart was filled with the man in front of her. Ah, Xian. Dmo Xian hugged her tightly, his long arms were extremely tight. That peerless face was filled with sullen anger. Especially when he looked at Yiqing Luo, the anger in his eyes was even more intense. But amidst the anger, there was also agitation and grievance. Dmo Xian? After Zhu Wu Xian avoided that burst of profound qi attack, he frowned as he looked at the man who had disturbed him. His eyes darkened. Why are you here? Dmo Xian's deep peach blossom eyes squinted, reflecting an extremely icy cold indifference. His thin lips were tightly pursed, filled with displeasure. Lil Luo, is mine, no one is allowed to touch her. As he was saying that, his arms hugged Yiqing Luo tightly, declaring his sovereignty. Zhu Wuxin's frown deepened. He shifted his gaze onto Yiqing Luo. Didn't you say that he abandoned you? Yiqing Luo was just about to look at Zhu Wu Xian when Dmo Xian suddenly hugged her and turned her around. Her line of sight was also blocked by his tall body. Was she not allowed to see Zhu Wuxin? Compared to the Dmo Xian who would make a move at the slightest disagreement. Right now, no matter how angry he was, no matter how much he loathed Zhu Wuxin, he still did not attack Zhu Wu Xian. This childish action made Yiqing Luo's brows tinged with a smile. She automatically hugged Dmo Xian's waist, as she patted his back in a soothing manner. Following that, in Dmo Xian's arms, she calmly replied Zhu Wu Xian's words, I've never said that I was abandoned. Just that. I'm too lazy to explain. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes flickered. Actually, he himself understood it very well. How could the Dmo Xian who was poisoned by the love goo possibly abandon Yiqing Luo? However, in his heart, there was still some hope that he would get lucky. Or even hope. Dmo Xian had really abandoned Yiqing Luo. Chapter 27-21. But Yiqing Luo's words completely shattered all his wishful thinking. Even without Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo wouldn't be together with him. All the promises in the past had turned into nothingness. Or perhaps, he was the only one who remembered the promise in the past. Dmo Xian's body blocked her and Zhu Wu Xian's line of sight. Yiqing Luo couldn't see Zhu Wu Xian's current emotions. She didn't know what this long silence meant. She pursed her lips as she deliberated over her words and continued, Master Zhu, I'm very sorry. Previously I made fun of your hard work for me and I'm also very sorry to reject you. But matters of the heart shouldn't be dragged around. I won't give you any chance, any hope. This is my responsibility towards you, and also my own feelings. Zhu Wu Xian gave a low laugh. That laugh was a little desolate and self-deprecating. That laughter made Yiqing Luo's heart feel a little uneasy. She was just about to move her body to check on Zhu Wu Xian's condition. But the moment she moved, she was wrapped even tighter by Dmo Xian's arms. I won't let you see him, I won't. His childish voice was filled with heartache. He must have been made to stay in the carriage earlier, witnessing the scene where she was almost forcefully kissed by Zhu Wu Xian. The current Dmo Xian's enmity towards Zhu Wu Xian was extremely heavy. Yiqing Luo listened to him and didn't move again. She cleared her throat and continued, Master Zhu, this is all I have to say. I hope that the next time we meet, you and I are not enemies. Saying that, she patted Dmo Xian's hand. Ah Xian, let's return to the carriage. Dmo Xian grabbed her hand. He even used his tall and sturdy body to block her completely. He just refused to let Zhu Wu Xian see any shadow of her. If it's an enemy, won't you not show any mercy? Suddenly, the silent Zhu Wu Xian opened his mouth at the instant when Yiqing Luo turned around. His voice was slightly hoarse. And it was filled with obvious desolation. As though he knew the outcome but still stubbornly wanted to know an answer that made his heart ache. Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused slightly. After some time, she slowly opened her mouth, yes. Indeed, this answer would make Zhu Wuxian's heart ache. He laughed in a low voice and closed his eyes in a self-mocking manner, facing Yiqing Luo. Even though he knew it was pain on top of pain. However, he would only stop when his heart went numb from the pain. He almost couldn't understand himself. Yiqing Luo, regardless of when she was young. She was still her current self. Could easily, he was unable to control his emotions. Zhu Wuxin turned around, unwilling to look at the two people who were leaning against each other. His footsteps were light as he walked in the opposite direction. His feet stepped on the piled-up leaves. Rustling sounds could be heard. It was like the blood in his heart. Drop by drop, it dripped down. The pain was indescribable. It seemed like the mystical palace was right, towards Yiqing Luo. He was ultimately unable to be as cold as what he said. He had plenty of ways to go against Dmo Xian. Then forcefully snatched Yiqing Luo from Dmo Xian's arms. He had his ways. He would rather die in glory than live in disgrace. What he couldn't have was the girl who had betrayed their promise. He could totally destroy it. But he couldn't do it. He knew. The minute he did this, that young lady would hate him. That young lady's face would no longer show a smile that could move his heart. That young lady would no longer treat him with respect. That young lady. Chapter 27-22. Zhu Wuxian. Suddenly, the young lady behind him called out to him. It was almost a reflex action as he speedily turned his head back. But what he saw was still Dmo Xian's back view. The young lady's body was still completely covered by Dmo Xian. Even he himself didn't notice it. His brows drooped down as his gaze turned colder. 1 month ago, with the help of those few powerhouses in Joy Sect, we got the news that Xian might have been affected by the parasite poison. Is it related to you? Yiqing Luo's voice was very soft and her tone was very slow. She had no intention to question him. Zhu Wuxian's body stiffened as he frowned slightly. You think it's me? I want to hear your answer. Yiqing Luo replied softly. Zhu Wuxian froze for a moment until his thin lips felt dry before he moved, as though he was ridiculing her. If I say it's not, will you believe me? I believe you. Almost without any hesitation, the young lady replied firmly, if you say it's not you, then it's definitely not you. The young lady's words were like something as it struck Zhu Wuxian's heart fiercely. His tall and sturdy body shook violently. His usually icy cold eyes also uncontrollably widened by a few degrees. She said, if you say it's not you, then it's definitely not you. His tone was so certain. That unhesitant determination. He couldn't control his trembling body. At this moment, he was actually rejoicing that Yiqing Luo was nestled in Dmo Xian's arms and couldn't see his current predicament. He shut his eyes forcefully, trying his best to maintain the calmness in his voice as he slowly spat out 2 words, no. Saying that, Zhu Wuxian seemed as though he was escaping. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of the street. The wind was still blowing against the surrounding dense leaves. Yiqing Luo wasn't able to sense Zhu Wuxian's presence. She raised her hand and patted Dmo Xian's chest. All right, he's already gone. Xian can let go of me. Not letting go. Dmo Xian stubbornly tightened his arms as he carried her up the little carriage. Be good, we still have to chase up to Xiao Yi and the rest. Yiqing Luo hooked his neck as she kissed his lips. This move was usually an extremely useful move. But now, Dmo Xian did not fall for this trick. Although after being kissed, Dmo Xian revealed a smile, but he still hugged Yiqing Luo tightly, not willing to let go no matter what. Yiqing Luo had no choice but to carry such a big lump of dog-type pet and support the small carriage. By the time the carriage regained its usual speed, Yiqing Luo then loosened the reins and let the horse move on its own to search for its companion. She, on the other hand, dragged all the large pets back to the carriage. Ah, Xian is angry? Yiqing Luo adjusted her position in Dmo Xian's arms. She pressed Dmo Xian onto the carriage. She was facing Dmo Xian, straddling his lap. Her hands hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck, her pair of charming eyes were filled with smiles. The young lady's delicate features were magnified in Dmo Xian's pupils. The fragrance of the young girl kept drilling into his nose. Dmo Xian's expression turned gentler. However, he still remembered his anger. Lil Luo, is not obedient. Lil Luo, was carried by someone else. Now, aren't we letting Ah Xian disinfect? Yiqing Luo smiled as she leaned her body into Dmo Xian's arms. Now my body is filled with Ah Xian's scent. Dmo Xian's eyes shone as his tall nose twitched, as though he was really smelling Yiqing Luo's scent. Chapter 27-23. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved even more. She circled her arms around Dmo Xian's neck as her voice was extremely low, intentionally revealing a slight hoarse tone. So, Ah Xian is still angry with me? Dmo Xian's inky pupils were deep as he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. That gaze seemed to be mixed with a blazing flame. Yiqing Luo's cheeks were slightly flushed. This man, no matter what he had become. When he wanted her, he wouldn't conceal his gaze at all. Ever since Dmo Xian was poisoned, she didn't dare to let Dmo Xian's emotions fluctuate too much. The most intimate action with Dmo Xian, it would probably just be kissing, hugging and raising high. But Dmo Xian, who was poisoned by the love goo, his self-control wasn't that good. There would always be a few times of misfire. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to use the previous reward method to soothe Dmo Xian. At this moment, Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with emotions. It was extremely obvious. She coughed lightly as her arms, which were circling around Dmo Xian's neck, slowly slid down. Xian, we are reaching the Miao Gu family soon. Only, her hand had just slid to Dmo Xian's shoulder. One of her hands was held tightly by the man's big palm. Following that, her body suddenly fell forward. She crashed heavily into the man's broad embrace. Following that, the man's strong aura pressed down on her in an overwhelming manner. His lips fiercely captured hers. His aura was wild and overbearing. So overbearing that she didn't have any extra rationality to consider other things. This kiss lasted for a very long time. So long that Yiqing Luo felt that she was about to suffocate. Outside, a white horse's neigh was heard. Dmo Xian then let go of Yiqing Luo. His arms were still tightly wrapped around her. That strength seemed as though it wanted to merge into her body. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that something was pressing against her. Her entire body felt weak as she laid in Dmo Xian's arms, her face flushed red as she panted heavily. Outside the carriage, a few familiar voices were heard. You're already at the Miao Gu family, why aren't you out yet? The young couple is sitting alone in a horse carriage. Why do you think it's for? Yan Xiaoyi's teasing voice could be heard. Apparently, she was taking revenge on Yiqing Luo for teasing her and Xiao Jin. Yiqing Luo raised her blushing face as she stared resentfully at Dmo Xian. You see, I've already told you that we're about to reach the Miao tribe and you're still acting in this manner. Aren't you making a joke out of yourself? She glared at him. Not only did it not make the man show the same aggrieved expression as before. Instead, his eyes darkened and he tightened his grip. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel. The feeling of something pressing against her became even more obvious. What the hell? Had Dmo Xian really gone crazy? Yiqing Luo's face turned even redder. She pursed her lips and pretended to be displeased. Stop messing around. Dmo Xian's body suddenly sunk as half of his chest pressed against Yiqing Luo's body. His hoarse voice carried a hint of grievance. I was so obedient, sitting in the carriage. This is the reward you should give me. You can't be angry. Yi Qing Luo, this honey trap. It was totally against the rules. Yi Qing Luo's blood tank was about to be emptied. But Dmo Xian was indeed very obedient earlier. He endured until Zhu Wu Xian wanted to forcefully kiss her before he appeared. She intentionally put on a straight face as it slowly softened. Chapter 27-24. Dmo Xian was insatiable as he tightened his arms further, then. I'll let you off now, but after this matter is over, I want the same reward as before. Yi Qing Luo, even though he was poisoned by love goo, he did not forget his black-bellied nature. What kind of reward was that? Had it taken root in his brain? Why was he always thinking about this? The laughter outside the carriage became more and more unbridled. Yan Xiaoyi used that kind of teasing tone as she knocked on the carriage's window. I say Qing Luo, there must be a limit to being intimate. There are still quite a number of powerhouses preparing to enter the Miao tribe, and if you continue to block here, you will be surrounded by people. Yi Qing Luo pushed Dmo Xian's chest resentfully. All right, stop fooling around, let's go down. Dmo Xian refused to let go and continued to rub her into his arms. His tone was one of shamelessness and stubbornness. If Lil Luo doesn't agree, I won't let go. I won't let them go. Saying that, his jet-black tranquil peach blossom eyes carefully scrutinized Yi Qing Luo's expression. As if he was afraid that she would be angry, he quickly added, it's Xiao Luo who is not obedient. You want me to wait for you obediently, yet you let others carry you. Little Luo is mine. Who said that he was poisoned by the love goo and couldn't think? This bastard's black-bellied and cunning was simply ingrained in his bones. Yi Qing Luo heard the laughter outside and knew that Yan Xiaoyi's words were right. There were also quite a number of influential figures that entered the Miao tribe one after another. Their carriage was small, but it was also blocking the way. After all, it was a bad influence. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and stared at Dmo Xian, as she helplessly agreed. It couldn't be helped. She could only choose to spoil her man. But if you want the reward, Xian has to promise me something. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. Dmo Xian had already let go of her delicate body when he got the answer he wanted. The next moment, he was pressed against the side of the carriage by Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo raised one knee and knelt down in between Dmo Xian's two crescent moons. He reached into the profound phoenix ring and took out a half mask with golden edges. She took the mask and gestured at Dmo Xian's face for a while. A satisfied smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This mask was made for Dmo Xian during this period of time, according to the shape of his face. Her refining skills were only at the entry level. Fortunately, she had specially refined the mask with a third-grade holy fire. Although the mask did not have any additional special effects, it was still extremely exquisite in terms of aesthetics. Especially, when she put the mask on Dmo Xian's face. The effects were simply too shocking. The gold-rimmed mask accentuated Dmo Xian's well-defined facial lines. Her peach blossom eyes seemed to contain all the light in the world, and they were extremely resplendent. The mask only covered the upper half of Dmo Xian's face. It revealed the elegant curve of his chin and his thin lips. It was both mysterious and noble. He was as handsome as a deity that had descended to the world. Yi Qing Luo had been looking at Dmo Xian's face for such a long period of time every day. At this moment, he could not help but lose his soul. Until outside the carriage, Yan Xiaoyi's slightly anxious voice was heard, Qing Luo, if the both of you don't come out, I'm going in. Yi Qing Luo then retracted her gaze absent-mindedly. Dmo Xian's slender fingers caressed the mask on his face. His eyes were tainted with a smile. Lil Luo, likes the look of me wearing a mask? Yi Qing Luo expressed that this action was simply too tempting and she almost couldn't control herself. Chapter 27-25. Dmo Xian's situation was slightly special. If it wasn't necessary, Yi Qing Luo didn't wish for anyone to recognize Dmo Xian. Because of this, Yi Qing Luo specially kept away the purple robe which Dmo Xian usually wore. Instead, she changed him into a simple silver-colored robe. His usually untidy black hair was also neatly tied into a crown by Yi Qing Luo. Coupled with the half-face mask, it was impossible. His entire temperament gave off an extremely dignified and cold, yet noble and elegant feeling. As for Yi Qing Luo, she was dressed in a long red robe. Her long black hair was tied up simply with a cherry blossom hairpin. Her face was lightly and elegantly made up, which accentuated that delicate and pretty face of hers, with a few hints of tenderness. Especially when she was standing beside Dmo Xian. But her aura didn't drop one bit. The appearance of the two made the bustling Miao tribe entrance fall into a dead silence. Everyone was stunned by these two who seemed as though they had descended from the sky. Even Yan Xiaoyi, who wanted to tease them, had her mouth opened wide in shock, as all the teasing words were stuck in her throat, unable to be spat out. Yi Qing Luo just dragged her stunning kissing Xian, as she walked to the middle of Yan Xiaoyi and the others. Those people seemed as though they had just awoken from a dream. Even the usually silent Gui Wu stared at Dmo Xian, as he said calmly, "Indeed a evildoer." Yan Xiaoyi pointed at Dmo Xian, as she coughed violently. You made a mask for the overlord? This half-exposed, isn't it just too tempting?" Her words had just ended. But she was violently pulled over by a strong force. Xiao Jin's face turned slightly black, as he held Yan Xiaoyi's petite body, as his voice was suppressed to a very low tone, with a warning tone. "Are you finding me ugly?" This voice was obviously a laugh. But when Yan Xiaoyi heard it, she felt a chill down her spine. Her lips trembled as she laughed dryly. How could that be? Jin is the most handsome in my heart." "In that case, you still think I'm ugly?" Xiao Jin laughed sinisterly. Yan Xiaoyi had yet to open her mouth. Dmo Xian had already wrapped his arm around Yi Qing Luo's slender waist as he walked past her. He didn't forget to throw down a cold sentence. Not only do I think you're ugly, I also think your abs aren't good enough." Yan Xiaoyi. Damn it. Can't we turn the page on this abs joke? Was he taking revenge on her for teasing them outside the carriage? F***ck. This husband and wife were really not willing to suffer any losses. Can we still be brothers happily? Yan Xiaoyi was filled with grief and indignation, but she could not express it. The force on his waist indicated that Xiao Jin was truly unhappy. Rebuking Yi Qing Luo or coaxing his own slut Jin, which was more important? Of course, coaxing a man was more important. Yan Xiaoyi expressed that it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Once she had coaxed Jin, she would come back for another round. Only then did the people in the surroundings regain their senses. After recognizing Yi Qing Luo's identity, all of their faces turned extremely ugly. A few well-dressed young ladies got off the carriage and whispered, "Isn't that Yi Luo, who was abandoned by His Majesty? Why is she here as well? I heard that the previous Miao clan leader and eldest young Miss Miao had offended her, so they were locked up by Qinghua sect sovereign. Then she still has the cheek to take part in the Miao tribe's sacred maiden selection? Isn't she afraid that the Miao clansmen would chase her out?" Chapter 27-26. The whispers of the ladies soon attracted the attention of the surrounding people. There was news about Di Zun abandoning an ordinary-looking woman. The North Continent and even the Nirvana realm had been in an uproar. But there were quite a number of people, such as those small forces who were not qualified to attend Qinghua sect's birthday celebration, had never seen Yi Qing Luo before. Now that they saw this legendary lady who had seduced the overlord, they all came forward to take a look. A few of them started to gossip. "This woman is really amazing. She was just abandoned by the overlord and now she hooked up with a new lover. Who is that gentleman? He looks extraordinary. He must have a distinguished identity. This vixen is so ugly and ordinary, how could she always seduce so many handsome and distinguished men? She's living well. Annoying. What are you talking about? The ladies pouted shyly for a while before continuing. But what you said is not without reason. That gentleman must have been cheated by that vixen. The crowd's attention shifted from Yi Qing Luo to the man beside her. They were all guessing who this man was. After all, he dared to want the overlord's abandoned wife? One must know that men's possessiveness was very strong. Even if it was the woman who was abandoned by himself. Similarly, he could not let other men dip their hands in. So either this man didn't know that Yi Luo had been with the overlord. Or, he was confident enough to think that he could defeat Di Zun. Yi Qing Luo didn't put the crowd's discussion to heart. Just at this moment, the carriage that Yan Xiao Yi and the rest were in moved. A slender and tall figure walked down from the carriage. That was an extremely exquisite and beautiful lady, dressed in a dark blue long dress, her black hair scattered loosely at the back of her head. Her entire person emitted a kind of cold and elegant noble temperament. When the crowd's eyes met that lady's face, they were so shocked that they almost cried out. That's the lady we met at the restaurant that day? Yes. That's her. I remember it clearly. She is the overlord's official wife? The real mistress of the palace? That day, I was in the restaurant. I saw with my own eyes that the overlord left Yi Luo and walked to this woman. Furthermore, their relationship was extremely intimate. They were hugging and hugging each other. This woman is definitely the mistress of the imperial palace. What's going on? Why is the mistress of the imperial palace sitting in Yi Luo's carriage? Isn't that carriage Master Gui Wu's? Maybe, the mistress of the imperial palace knows Gui Wu, so she gave him face and reluctantly sat in the same carriage with Yi Luo and his gang of scoundrels? Everyone expressed their opinions one after another. At this moment, a luxurious carriage came from the side. Wasn't the one who had just been beaten to the ground by Zhu Wu Xian, Mei? Her injuries seemed to have mostly recovered. However, his face was slightly pale, coupled with the flirtatious expression on her face that could not be concealed. She had a different kind of charm. Under the support of a maid, she walked down the carriage. Her pair of beautiful eyes seemed as though it was stained with poison as she stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo, giving a cold laugh. Don't forget that day at the Peach Blossom restaurant, Yi Luo was submissive towards this mistress of the imperial palace, totally with the attitude of a concubine, I think. Chapter 27:27. Mei's words made the surrounding people's gazes towards Yi Qing Luo instantly changed. Declaring war with the overlord? Was this a joke? But, thinking about it carefully, he felt that Mei's words made sense. They immediately distanced themselves from Yi Qing Luo and the others, afraid that they might offend the overlord. Seeing Mei's appearance, Yi Qing Luo's gaze flickered slightly. Faintly, she felt that something was amiss. Earlier, this lady called Mei's injury was obviously very serious. But now, she was standing right in front of her. From the looks of it, she didn't seem to have suffered any internal injuries. Could it be that this lady called Mei had some miraculous medicine on her, which could quickly heal internal injuries? She has such a heavy enmity towards you? Peach took a look at Mei and raised her brows as she leaned towards Yi Qing Luo and asked in a low voice, "You know her?" His rotten peach blossom. Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at Dmo Xian. Peach replied with an "oh" and nodded. She's a little strange, it's best to be careful. Her gaze swept across the surroundings as she suppressed her voice to the lowest. I asked Peach 3000 to check on her information, but they could only find some superficial information. She is someone sent by the Sun family in East Continent. On the surface, she is accompanying Sun family's collateral relative Sun Yutong to take part in the Miao tribe Saintess election. But in actual fact, she is representing the Sun family, coming to North Continent, to help Sun family to make friends with various powerhouses. Sun family? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as East Continent's premier son's face surfaced in her mind. The Sun family you mentioned, is it the Sun family that I'm thinking of? Peach nodded. It's because Premier Sun exhausted his entire family's assets to bid for his Sky Recovery Serene Grass, causing his current position to be extremely unstable. That's why he came up with this method, to find a few backers to stabilize his premier position. Peach paused as her expression turned grave. There's one more point which is very strange. Other than her identity and news of entering the Sun family, before this, everything else about her is blank. Blank? Under Peach 3000's investigation, her background was blank. It was indeed very strange. So, I'm guessing that her background might have been purposely erased. Peach pursed her lips and continued, there is another possibility. That is, before and after she entered the Sun family, she changed her appearance and identity. Saying that, Peach deliberately pointed at Yiqing Luo's face. Since Yiqing Luo could disguise herself. Of course, Mei could also disguise herself. It didn't matter which possibility Peach guessed. That was a potential danger. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she softly replied with an "N, I will be careful." She could feel it herself. This woman called Mei. He was very hostile to her. In this, it was absolutely not only because of DMO Xian. It was also very possible that it was because of other reasons. He chose to enter the Sun family and work for them. There was a high possibility that it was because the Sun family and her, Yiqing Luo, had formed an enmity with the world's mercenaries. If Lil Luo, doesn't like her, just kill her. DMO Xian stood by the side, looking at Yiqing Luo's grave expression. His slender fingers caressed her face. Yiqing Luo was stunned, the indifferent lines softened. She smiled and held DMO Xian's hand. Not for the time being. If we don't find out who she is, even if we kill one Mei, there will be a second, a third Mei. DMO Xian's fingers slowly slid onto her tightly knitted brows, whispering, I will protect Lil Luo, Chapter 27-28. Peach. Fed a mouthful of dog food again? She expressed her exhaustion as she silently turned around and left. Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian smiled at each other. The uneasiness in her heart was also soothed by DMO Xian. Her fingers pinched DMO Xian's big palm as she looked at the few people behind her. Let's go in and see how Yi's preparation is going. Saying that, she took the lead and walked towards the entrance of the Miao tribe. Peach seemed to have thought of something as her expression changed slightly as she quickly caught up with Yiqing Luo's footsteps and was about to say something to her. Mei, who had been ignored, spoke in a shrill voice once again, Miss Yi, have you been exposed and fled? Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused as she glanced sideways at Plum's beautiful face. Her lips curled into a calm and languid smile. Miss Plum is not old yet and your eyes are not working well? Which one of your eyes saw me running away in panic? Not sure if it was Yiqing Luo's words that agitated Plum. Plum's expression suddenly twisted. You slut, just a vixen who seduces men everywhere. I'd like to see, when this backer of yours sees through your true colors, will he still allow you to rely on him? Yiqing Luo snorted lightly. It said that a person's heart is dirty. Everything is dirty. So in Miss Plum's eyes, women can only rely on men and not on themselves? She paused as her smile was filled with ridicule. To Miss Plum, as long as you can get a position, even if it's Premier's son who is old enough to be your grandfather, you can do it. Indeed, everyone is dirty. You. Plum's face suddenly turned steely green as though it was covered with dark clouds. She raised her hand and pointed at Yiqing Luo's direction as her whole body trembled. What nonsense are you talking about? Your heart is the dirty one. You dare to say that you're not relying on the Overlord to show off? Didn't you immediately find another home after being abandoned by the Overlord? Didn't you want to declare war with the Overlord? That looked as though she had been poked in her sore spot and flew into a rage out of humiliation. Yiqing Luo lazily moved her pink lips as she spat out word by word, no, it's not. May's face was ferocious, the veins on her hands bulging under her sleeves. The poisonous chill in his eyes seemed to want to devour Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she sneered and shot a glance at May, immediately dragging Dmo Xian as they walked into the Miao Stockade village. The disdainful ridicule was obvious. May was so angry that her whole body was trembling. The hatred and coldness in his eyes made people shudder. How could she take this lying down? She was an abandoned woman who had been abandoned by the overlord. What right did he have to be so arrogant in front of her? Clearly, they were just women who had sacrificed themselves for the sake of status. What right did he have to pretend to be virtuous? She hissed in a hoarse voice, "Yi Luo, you." Before he could finish his words. That young lady who had already entered the Miao village, suddenly looked over. That pair of charming eyes seemed to be stained with a myriad of frost. Ling Mei's throat felt as if it was gripped by an invisible, ice-cold hand. It sealed all her voice. That young lady suddenly curled her lips. Her smile was extremely beautiful, but it revealed an eerie chill. "Miss May, don't embarrass yourself." May's heart tightened as her pale lips trembled. In the end, she still couldn't spit out a single word. Indeed, if she continued to pester, that would be asking for humiliation. Based on ability or eloquence, she was not Yi Luo's opponent. Chapter 27-29. After Yiqing Luo and the rest walked far away, the crowd who remained at the entrance of the Miao tribe to spectate, all set their gazes on May. There were some men's gazes which were completely naked, not concealing their yearning. Some of the powerhouse's representatives walked up, one hand touching their chin, their eyes sizing up May from top to bottom. He looked gentle and refined, and had a certain temperament. But the words they said were so vulgar that it made people nauseous. "Beauty, you're so beautiful, why not follow me? It's better than old man's Sunday, beauty. Compared to old man's son, we are more satisfied with you. The few of us, you can choose as many as you want. If you follow us, I guarantee that you'll have a good life in the future. As compared to Sun family, it's not much different." One after another, vulgar words, made May's originally steely green face, turned even uglier. She was forced to retreat several steps by the few wretched men. All of you get lost." May leaned against her carriage, as she speedily ran up the carriage. "Little beauty, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." One of the men stretched out his hand, as he grabbed May's arm. After touching the lady's tender skin, uncontrollably, he caressed May's arm. The laughter in his mouth became even more sinister. The man's action also made the other men interested. They all crowded around May. May's expression instantly changed, as her eyes turned sinister. "All of you get lost. All of you get lost. Just based on you bunch of toads, and you want to lay a finger on me." Those few men laughed even more wantonly. The surrounding people, as usual, didn't care about it. Earlier when they faced Yi Luo, berated him, ridiculed him, they were as cold as now. Those who came to participate in the Miao tribe's sacred maiden selection were mostly small and medium-sized powerhouses. Naturally, their quality was relatively not that high. Seeing that no one around stopped them, they became more and more excited. One by one, they stretched out their hands, not caring that they were in public, as they directly touched May's body. When a hand came into contact with his body, he felt a chill run down his spine. May raised her hand, and with a cracking sound, it broke. She took a few steps back, her face slightly pale. The man whose wrist was broken screamed in pain. The men were immediately enraged. B*TCH. Aren't you here to act coquettishly and seek a backer? Why are you still pretending to be a chaste saintess? You've already slept with an old man in his 50s, and you're still scared of sleeping with us? Are you looking down on me? I'm going to sleep with you today. A few slapping sounds could be heard. The men grabbed May's wrist and slapped her a few times. May, who had been beaten, was about to retaliate. However, before he could make a move, her eyes widened abruptly. A black mist quickly entered her eyes. He slowly retracted his counterattack. She gradually calmed down. A few men dragged Plum, who had been beaten silly, and walked towards the direction of another denser forest. The onlookers revealed a tacit smile. However, no one noticed anything unusual. For example, May, who had been struggling fiercely, after breaking a man's wrist, why didn't she struggle anymore? For example, when she was being dragged by a few men into the dense forest, why did she calmly follow them? For example, May's long hair, which fell down after being caught, covered her face. Chapter 27:30. After passing the inspection of the Miao tribe guards, Yiqing Luo and the rest followed the female attendant's lead and directly arrived at the Miao tribe's largest public square, which was also the place where the sacred maiden selection was held. At this time, the Miao tribe's plaza was set up with about 500 long tables and soft cushions. The long table was filled with Miao delicacies and pastries. Because of the existence of the ghost martial artist, Yiqing Luo and the rest were still arranged to be seated at the first row of the long table. The group of people sat down in succession. Because it was the first row, many of the forces that had arrived long ago shifted their gazes over to them. They whispered to each other from time to time. He seemed to be guessing their identities. After Yiqing Luo sat down, she searched around for Miao Yi's shadow. However, after looking around, he did not see Miao Yi in the surroundings of the plaza. She took a look at Dmo Xian, who had been hugging her slender waist tightly, and whispered something into his ear. Dmo Xian's body stiffened slightly as he shook his head. The two eyes under the mask flickered, showing extreme displeasure. Yiqing Luo helplessly patted the back of his hand. Dmo Xian's eyes then revealed a smile. Then, both of them stood up and walked away from the long table. They lowered their voices and asked the waitress standing at the side, "Where is your Miao family's second miss?" Second miss? When the maid heard this form of address, she felt a little unfamiliar. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she tried to probe, that is, Miao Yi, she should be considered as. "You're Miao family's eldest young miss, right?" Miao Yi? The maid's expression changed slightly. Suddenly, she raised her head. In order to display a humble and courteous attitude, these Miao female attendants naturally could not look directly at the guests' faces. Because of this, the female attendant stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo's face for some time before her expression sunk as she speedily retreated a few steps. You are Yi Luo." The waitress's voice wasn't loud, but it was definitely not small. It also attracted the attention of many people. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. There was an inexplicable feeling of unease in his heart. "Descend." Peach stood up and patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Immediately after, her eyes darkened and she shouted coldly at the maid, "Scram." The female attendant was so scared that her face turned pale, as she couldn't help but take several glances at Yiqing Luo's direction. He almost rolled and crawled out of the square. This scene caused the surrounding guests to discuss incessantly. "What's going on?" Yiqing Luo looked at the Peach coldly. Peach sighed. "I just wanted to tell you that he had yet to finish his sentence." A person wearing the 3000 peach blossom robe walked over quickly. The man leaned close to Peach's ear and whispered something. Peach's expression darkened. She whispered some orders, and the man immediately left. Peach's expression was grave. She pursed her lips and was about to hook onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder, deliberating over her words, thinking of how to open her mouth. Just as he raised his hand, she immediately withdrew her hand when a cold gaze landed on her. Peach coughed softly. "Well, it's not a big deal for Yi. For her, it's also a kind of growth. I think you shouldn't interfere with her holy maiden selection." She paused and added another sentence. The informant I've arranged in the Miao tribe will take good care of Yi. The anxiety on Yiqing Luo's face froze. Her eyelashes fluttered and drooped down. Peach's words made her more or less guess something. But there was no denying that what Peach said was reasonable. Only by experiencing setbacks could one grow. This was Miao Yi's growth. Chapter 27:31. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes. She had put the pressure of Xian's poison on Miao Yi alone. She shouldn't disturb Miao Yi's heart at this time. She should believe it. Miao Yi, who was able to resolutely choose to leave the Miao tribe with the Miao Gu king in the face of unequal treatment, had her own hot-bloodedness. Say, just now. What did your subordinates tell you? Yiqing Luo put Miao Yi's matter aside for the time being. Peach looked around. The surrounding people, because of the interlude just now, had set their sights on them. It was too conspicuous to stand. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian back to their seats. Peach sat down next to her and spoke with a dignified expression. Just now, when you were being troubled by the Sun family, I specially left a spy from Peach Blossom 3000 sect there. Yiqing Luo. Someone was finding trouble with her and Peach just left a spy to watch the fun? What a good friend. Peach didn't have the mood to joke and continued. After you left, Plum was entangled by a few small forces. Speaking of which, it's a bit strange. Huh? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Peach paused and lowered her voice to be extremely mysterious. When Plum was entangled, she resisted very fiercely, but after being slapped a few times by those people, she obediently followed those people and went to the small forest. Yan Xiaoyi was also listening by the side. Small forest? Perhaps. Her previous resistance was deliberately done for others to see. In actual fact, she wanted to take the opportunity to climb up to those people's forces. If that's the case, I won't say it's strange. Peach shook her head. My spy told me that Plum walked out of the small forest alone. Moreover, she became younger and more beautiful. Her whole body exuded a very strong charm. Yan Xiaoyi touched her chin. Maybe she was nourished and satisfied. Probably not. Peach pursed her lips tightly, her brows slightly sunk and her voice deepened. Plum and those men entered the small forest for a very short time, less than half an incense's time. Generally speaking, those men. No matter what, it was impossible for Mei to walk out of the grove in the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. Yiqing Luo understood the deeper meaning in her words. She pondered for a moment and said, even if it's half an incense worth of time, Plum has really been nourished. Then it should be a few men, accompanying Plum out. Most importantly, my spies also heard screams. Peach nodded. After Plum came out, my spy wanted to continue following her, but he was almost discovered by her. That is to say, after Mei came out of the little forest, not only did her appearance change, even her strength had increased. Yiqing Luo understood the meaning behind Peach's words. After a moment of silence, her fingertips gently tapped on the table. If that's really the case, then, we can only find those men to find out what's going on. I'm afraid we won't be able to find it. Peach shook her head. After my spy was almost discovered by Plum, he chose to enter the grove to look for those men. But there was no trace of those men in the entire grove. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.